resolution number 386? There being none, we'll move on to the next section of the agenda, which is reading of any submitted public comments. I'm going to ask Elisa Rangeli, our confidential secretary, have there been any written comments submitted electronically or by email?
No. No comments been submitted.
Okay, we'll move on from agenda number 3 to 4. Reading of the public notice, resolution number 388. Jackie, take it away.
Resolution 388, approval, readoption of local law, changing the charter to provide for counsel to the majority of the county legislator and counsel to the minority of the county legislator.
Okay. So on that, we have a number of attendees that have signed up, and just based on what was handed to me, I'm going to call them in the order that were signed and checked off as interested in speaking. After that, I will open it up to anyone else in the audience that would like to provide public comment. So with public comment, I have listed legislator Laura Russo, who would like to comment on this proposal. Yep, you can go right to the table over there.
Good afternoon, County Executive and fellow colleagues. I'm Laura Russo, County Legislator, District 4, Patterson. I'm writing to urge you to veto local law resolution number 388. This local law was rushed through the legislature, undermining transparency. Special meetings were called on December 18th and December 31st. I had advised legislative staff in November of my year-end schedule, and I'm disappointed that the meetings were called anyway and the resolution was passed on the very last day of the year. It would only be a few hours later that swearing-in ceremony would commence for the newly elected legislators. We are undermining the democratic process by not including those newly elected on an extremely important decision to spend taxpayer dollars. I do not believe in creating a political party-specific role. We have been provided legislative counsel by Putnam County, and the legislature was well served last year. I can't justify spending additional tax dollars on a duplicate role. I have the utmost confidence we will continue to be well served by our current legislative council. We need to work collaboratively on behalf of the people of Putnam County, and I took my oath to represent the people in my district as well as all Putnam County residents. These funds of over $150,000 were in the budget, but are currently in sub-contingency. I would approve returning these funds to the taxpayers. I respectfully urge you to veto local law resolution 388, send this back to the newly elected legislature, which Putnam County voters just elected. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully submitted, Laura Russo, Patterson, Legislator, District 4.
Thank you for your comments. We'll make sure that's submitted for the record. Next on the list in interested speakers I see is Jake D'Angelo, newly elected legislator. Jake?
Jake D'Angelo, Putnam County legislator, representing the 5th District, resident of the Carmel Hamlet. County Executive Byrne, I'm here today to urge you to veto this resolution. This local law was rushed through the legislature under circumstances that raise serious concerns about good government, transparency, public trust, and critically about respect for the people of Putnam County. Special meetings were hastily scheduled on the 18th and 31st of December, despite 3 sitting legislators, Legislator Russo, Crowley, and Gouldman, advising legislative staff in advance that they were unable to attend due to long-standing scheduling conflicts. It's difficult to understand why those dates were selected anyway. More troubling still is that this resolution was passed on the very last day of the calendar year, just 3.5 hours before I was sworn into office. That timing is not incidental. Voters had already spoken, and they had elected a new legislature, including me, to represent them. Yet this outgoing body chose to rush through a significant structural change to the legislature just hours before I could take the oath, effectively silencing the voice that the public had just chosen. That undermines the mandate given by the voters and truly damages public confidence in the legislative process. The substance of law also compounds these concerns. The positions created are parliamentary and advisory in nature, advising on procedure, drafting, and research. Those are functions that are inherently nonpartisan. Creating a party-specific legal advisory role for these functions serves no legitimate governmental purpose and instead risks institutionalizing division in a body that is obligated to govern collaboratively. It's also fiscally irresponsible. Legislatures and counties larger than Putnam operate effectively with a single legislative council. We don't need two lawyers. Duplicating legal services at taxpayers' expenses, it's just unnecessary and wasteful. This law also raises serious legal concerns. By creating an alternative legal advisory structure for the legislature, it diminishes the authority of the county executive, in whom the charter vests the power to appoint the county attorney as the county's sole legal advisor. A change of this magnitude alters the balance of power established by the charter, and it should have been subject to a mandatory public referendum. The failure to do so alone warrants a veto. The timing and sequence of events surrounding this vote further undermine public confidence. The deciding vote was cast by a single legislator who shortly thereafter also broke with their party to cast a deciding vote for chairman of the legislature. I don't assert that those actions were connected, but their proximity creates an appearance that should concern anyone who values ethical government. I also want to clarify the fiscal implications. Approximately $150,000 was included in sub-contingency as part of broader budget negotiations that I'm not sure I would have supported had I been in office. Nonetheless, those funds will only be spent if this local law is allowed to take effect, either by your declining to veto or by the legislature overriding a veto. Absent that, a future legislature may reasonably determine those funds should be allocated differently or not spent at all, including being returned to the taxpayers. Allowing this law to stand would also bind future legislatures by embedding these positions in law and requiring a supermajority to undo what should properly be an ordinary operational decision. That is an extraordinary constraint posed through a rushed end-of-year maneuver by an outgoing body. There are simply too many unanswered questions regarding timing, legality, process, cost, and motivation to allow this law to take effect. I respectfully urge you to veto this resolution, return this matter to the newly elected legislature, the one that the voters of Putnam County just entrusted with governing, so it can be addressed transparently, deliberately, and in good faith. I believe that's what the public deserves. Thank you.
For your comments, legislator, that'll be filed for the record. Welcome. We're in the middle of our 3:30 public hearing. There's some folks entering the conference room. There's going to be another one at 5 p.m. The next on the list that was checked is legislator Nancy Montgomery of Phillipstown. Was that just a check to speak or?
Yeah, I didn't check it.
Okay, sorry, someone else must have done that before.
I already
So-
made my comments during the process of 6 meetings where it was discussed.
So I have you here. Is there anyone else that would like to comment that's here in the audience for the 3:30 public hearing? The attendance sheet, we'll have it, the folks just walked in, fill out the attendance record. That gets filed with the minutes, but then gets registered back with the legislature for both public hearings. So make sure that you sign on. Are there any other public comments from the folks here in person? There being none, I'm going to ask our confidential secretary, Lisa Rangeli, have there been any comments submitted electronically or via mail to our office?
Yes, we have two, and Chris is gonna read them for us.
Okay, Communications Director Christopher Formasano will be reading written submitted comments. Thank you, Chris. Take it away.
Actually, the first comment that was submitted, I'm not going to read because Legislator LaRusso is here. So it was actually the first comment submitted.
Oh,
No, I've got the other ones. The next one submitted is from Christian J. Russo, a Putnam County resident. It was via email. Dear County Executive Byrne, I am writing to express my opposition to the proposal to hire a separate lawyer for the minority political party representatives of the Putnam County Legislature. While I understand the importance of ensuring that all legislators have access to appropriate legal guidance, I believe that establishing separate majority and minority lawyers will only serve to further entrench political divisions rather than promote collaboration and effective governance. The legislature functions best when it operates as a unified body, working towards solutions that benefit all residents of Putnam County, regardless of party affiliation. Creating a parallel legal representation risks reinforcing partisan lines and undermining that shared purpose. I am also concerned that this approach is inconsistent with common practice across New York State. Barely any counties in New York State employ both majority and minority lawyers to represent their legislatures. The exceptions are Nassau and New York City, both with populations larger than some states. Given Putnam County's relatively small population and the fact that our legislature consists of only 9 members, the smallest legislative body of any county in New York State, I find it difficult to justify the added expense of multiple lawyers. This proposal appears disproportionate to the size and needs of our county government. Additionally, the financial implications of hiring separate lawyers raise serious concerns about fiscal responsibility. At a time when residents are facing rising taxes and increased costs of living, this unnecessary expense places an avoidable burden on taxpayers without providing a clear or compelling public benefit. Existing legislative lawyers should be capable of providing objective legal advice to the legislature as a whole, consistent with their professional and ethical obligations. Finally, I am troubled by the manner in which this proposal was voted upon. The vote took place on December 31st, 2025 at approximately 1:30 p.m. as outgoing legislators were concluding their terms and before incoming legislators had the opportunity to weigh in on this significant policy decision. Regardless of intent, this timing creates the appearance of a rushed process and undermines public confidence in transparent and accountable governance. For these reasons, I respectfully urge you to veto this proposed local law and to prioritize unity, transparency, and prudent stewardship of taxpayer dollars. Putnam County residents deserve decisions that reflect careful deliberation and long-term interests of the entire community. Unfortunately, due to work obligations, I am unable to attend the legislative meeting on January 15th, 2026. I ask that this email be read aloud and added to the public record. Thank you for your time and consideration of my concerns. Sincerely, Christian Russo, Putnam County resident.
Thank you.
And there we did have one other submission. This was a memo sent to the county executive's office from Deputy Chairman William Goulman of the Putnam County Legislature. I am sorry that I will not be able to be at this afternoon's public hearing pertaining to the local law changing the charter to provide for a council to the majority of the county legislature and a council to the minority of the county legislature. I respectfully request that my comments be read into the record. I am writing in opposition to having 2 separate lawyers for the Putnam County Legislature and urge you to veto this proposal. I believe the best way for this to occur is to have a charter review commission set up to review this and other revisions to the charter. This process would prevent changes from being rushed through without proper review and discussion. I understand how important this is to have a lawyer for the legislature, but to have 2 lawyers, one for the majority and one for the minority, is not appropriate. Putnam County has one of the smallest legislative bodies in New York State, with most of the counties only having 1 council. I believe only 2 counties have a minority and majority council in all of New York. They are New York City and Nassau counties, which have much larger legislative bodies than Putnam. Having 2 lawyers is expensive and avoidable. Putnam County is one of the highest property tax counties in the state, and adding another lawyer will only raise costs and put further additional financial burden onto the taxpayers. Having 1 legislative council has been and should continue to be adequate to provide the proper legal advice to the entire legislative body. As a Putnam County legislator, it is my opinion that the manner in which this was passed was not transparent and needed more discussion. This local law was on the agenda for December 18th, 2025 year-end meeting, a meeting which multiple legislators, including myself, were unable to attend due to scheduling conflicts. It then had to be readopted due to an issue with posting the public notice in the newspapers and subsequently considered at a special full legislative meeting held on New Year's Eve, hours before 2 newly elected legislators took their oaths of office. I believe it would have been more appropriate to reconsider this important matter in the new year, with those newly elected legislators having an opportunity to weigh in. Additionally, I believe having two separate councils will divide the legislature more than it is now. This body should run as a unified body, working together towards finding ways to help all residents of Putnam County, regardless of party affiliation. Thank you.
Any other written submissions?
No, sir.
No, I see there's another individual that just joined us.
Would like to speak.
And sir, not to rush you, we're at the close, getting near the closing of 3 p.m. public hearing. We went through resolution number 386, which was pertaining to the Transportation Advisory Council as a change in the county code. We're still on public comment for resolution number 388, which has to do with majority minority council. That seems to be the change that most people want to comment on. Would you like to speak?
Yes, I would.
By all means, sir, just please introduce yourself.
Yeah,
For the rest of the camera.
My name is M.H. Freiberg. I use initials. My first name is Mark. I'm here to speak in favor of the resolution. I'm a lawyer. I graduated from Columbia Law School, where I studied constitutional law with Ruth Bader Ginsburg in 1981. I think the county legislature should have their own council. It's an independent body. And I'm willing to volunteer to actually serve for 3 months as the, if you pass the bill, as the counsel to the legislature. I have an extensive background in legislative drafting. When I was at Columbia Law School, I worked for the Legislative Drafting Research Fund, which is sort of a think tank specializing in legislative drafting. And I'd be willing to volunteer for 3 months for up to 20 hours a month to serve as sort of the interim legislative council, get this office up and running and help the county. I have a long history with Putnam County, going back to 1963. In 1963, my parents started renting a bungalow during the summer in Lake Peekskill at Camp Pico. Did you ever hear of Camp Pico?
I think so. I know Lake Peekskill.
Yeah, okay. Well, it was 63 and 64, 2 summers there. And then in 1968, they bought a house at 15 Harper Street in Lake Peekskill, which was a converted bungalow. And I've been living there since last October of 2025. Before that, I had lived in Croton-on-Hudson. So I have a long history with this county. I think this is a great county in many, many ways, and I would like to help out. I think this bill is very important because I think that the county legislature should have their own independent council. Separation of powers is a fundamental principle of the American government. And I also have a lot of respect for the county legislature. I knew Sam Oliverio when he was on the county legislature, and then when he was the town supervisor at Putnam Valley. Lake Peekskill, of course, is part of Putnam Valley. And I would like to contribute to this county. And as I said, I'd be willing to volunteer. I brought you a couple of my articles. I published articles in the New York Law Journal, so you can see the quality of my work. Some of them were on technical legal issues. I have one that I brought up. It's called Discovery, Lies, and Videotape. It was about a couple of cases that involved the issue of, in personal injury cases, whether the defendants can obtain copies of any videotapes. You know what plaintiffs' attorneys in personal injury cases frequently hire videographers to go out and surveil and record the defendants to see whether they're really faking the injuries or not. There was a Jack Lemmon movie, I forget the name of it, maybe it was The Fortune Cookie, where that was the premise. It was Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, I think. So I brought you that, and I wrote some lighthearted pieces also. I wrote one that the Law Journal published called In Defense of Procrastination, how to make procrastination work for you. There are two types of procrastination. There's constructive procrastination and there's destructive procrastination. Well, in law, as in life, a lot of times, if you just put things off, the problems will resolve themselves or you'll think it through better. You know, another one I wrote was called The Risk of Assumptions, 10 Assumptions that lawyers should never make, because the best lawyer is the most thorough lawyer. He or she is the lawyer who thinks of all the possibilities and does the research and actually talks to people also. So that's the kind of lawyer that I am. And once again, I'd be willing to volunteer if you pass the bill. And I think you should call the office legal counsel to the Putnam County Legislature. So if you pass that bill and you want to work with me, I would volunteer for up to 20 hours a month for 3 months. And that would give everyone time, you know, to get this office up and running. And I think if we work together, we can make Putnam County a better county. Now, I want to promote tourism in Putnam County.
So this public hearing is about the resolution.
Okay, so I'll talk to you
I'll take
about.
that.
We can, if there's other discussion, we can talk after.
Yeah, we can talk
The next
afterwards.
one's at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's fine.
But do you have more public comment about the resolution?
No, that's basically it. I really think that this is a very important thing. I think that the county legislature should have their own council. And I'm willing to volunteer to help get this office up and running. You know, I'm friendly with Mike Lawler, with Matt Slater. You know, actually I saw you at the event last Monday at the Continental Golf Club, but I didn't I didn't have a chance to talk to you. But anyway, that's my testimony, and I hope that you will pass this bill. And I think it would be to your advantage, your political and personal advantage as the county executive, to have, you know, an independent counsel working for the legislature. I would work with the county attorney, you know, and work with you personally. And I'll talk to you later about the promoting tourism in Putnam County.
Sure. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your public comment. I am going to do my best to reserve my comment until the close of the 5 p.m. public hearing. But just to clarify one thing, I don't assign counsel, so whether this happens or not, it's not my decision on who provides counsel to the legislature. Are there any other public comments? I know there's some other folks here that, based on the comments, is there anything else, anybody else want to speak? There being none, I'll now move and call this hearing adjourned. It will reconvene at 5 p.m. same place, the first floor of the county office building in the DGS conference room. Thank you for your time.